It was in how 1962 lorry, and tiring how bonnet, how vital consumable his days zipping about the hilly behind roads of Cayey, Puerto Rico. He sold out equipment of the woodbed of the pickup truck. And he utilized such toolkit, and a life expectancy of pot, to construct houses, ever in specific. Love him, the content was anything if not consecutive. It was powerful quite to stay up to a tempest, he said clients and household members. Dong T confidence whatever less than lasting. Following Storm Maria slammed in the U.S. area on September 20, flaking roofs of wood homes and amputating branch of trees, the society rotated once again to vital. No one can say precisely how lot human beings kept the tempest in the difficult caste structures he helping build for them, frequently at slight or no price. But he's potential hundreds, his household told. The man who would include been 90-year-old in February kept the tempest at household 1. Soon following, he was seen by neighbors cleaning wreckage of roads and submerged houses. It was the ramifications of the storm how would show deadly. No one mind lot of the lamp at first. Several neighbors noted the petroleum-powered fire shivering in Vital's residing chamber. Same D begun with it following the tempest hit, a lighting he lit at twilight, as the Coqui frogs began their choir. Maria's wines had overturned Force Channel Love toothpicks in Cayey, and Force facility in the city, Love on lot of the Isle, has been sluggish to back among a by the government answer wide outlined as inappropriate. Just 10% of human beings there include Force present, told Mayoress Rolando Ortiz. Vital necessary a way to see in the black. It was October 20, 1 monthly following the tempest, while the neighbors smelled fume. Chamomile Lamboy stood on her rooftop, tension to discover cell alarm to urge disaster response. Margarita Leon busted via Vital's box, producing a fungus of warmth. It was two deceased. Vital's carbonized remnant were found in a blackened hellscape, as one family member outlined it, a stage so weird, and so outwardly superfluous, how one fireman, Vital's nephew, fainted. Few of Vital's siblings, family and grandchildren, as Cayey's mayoress, the police force head and the CEO of disaster control, all say Vital dead as a outcome of the force blackouts inflicted by Storm Maria, and how include lingered for almost 2 months. If same D had force, he wouldn't include been with the lamp in the outdoor fire. And if he hadn't utilized how lamp, same D yet be live, they told. In general, consequential storm deaths, in that a man potential would be live if not for the tempest and its ramifications, should be portion of the formal die duty, onto Puerto Rico's Division of Social Security, that oversees the calculate. The listing of 55 deaths ascribed to the storm includes ones of cardiac attacks and suicides how were besieged by a tempest how shook though the sturdiest of the 3.4 millionth us countrymen who dwell on the Caribbean isle. Yet Vital's die, and potential many decades if not hundreds of other, is yet to be calculated by Puerto Rico as it creates a listing of mortalities associated to the Class 4 tempest. We consumable 2 weeks in Puerto Rico hard to know reason. The travel turned on a examination of on part of all burial homes on the Isle, that showed the capacity for common undercounting, interviews in doctors and social officials, or, largest importantly, conversations in the household members of Puerto Rico's unaccounted corpse. The analyze of the die duty found problems how begin at the period of die and go on for the serious. Same formal calculate is 55. While CEO Donald Trump card attended Puerto Rico on October 3, he praised Storm Maria's comparatively low die duty, later 16. Officials should be proud of the low quantity of deaths, and for avoiding a actual disaster. Love 2005 Storm Katrina, Trump card told. After how date, yet, Puerto Rico's die duty rose to 34. The Puerto Rican by the government fired behind at how estimation. In procedure to supporting her declaration, cruise as necessary to this the testimony, Rector M. Pesquera, Registrar of the Division of Social Security, told in a declaration. If she is not readily to do such it is an reckless commentary. By the government of Puerto Rico certifies the die calculate relying on actual data in gig in all parts implicated in the trial. At the time, the formal die calculate is 55. To verify the precision of the Puerto Rican by the government's figures, we named almost each burial household in Puerto Rico. Burial household directors are on the front line channel of the meltdown. They calculate the corpse and they say in household members on the occasion. It was via a burial household CEO, for copy, how we scientific of vitals die and other. Such burial homes identified 499 deaths in the monthly following the tempest, September 20 to October 19, that they say were associated to Storm Maria and its ramifications. House 9 times the formal die duty. Or, once again, it represents just on part of burial homes. One burial household CEO, Jose A. Molina, in Vega Alta, was so suppressed by job following the tempest how he died of a cardiac assault on October 10, on to his child, Luis Alberto Molina. The 31-year-old told his dad was by terrible distress as he tested to run a sanitation industry out of safe force or water supply facility. Jose Molina had to expect an hours-long channel for gas, his son told. Up the tempest, he had top bloodstream blood pressure but differently was in nice public health, Luis Alberto Molina told. His color and temper modified. He stopped consuming and asleep. Ultimately he complained of trunk effort and was undertaken to the clinic. His child, who now manages the industry, the Vega Alta Monument Burial Household, processed his dad's services. Me and my siblings are departure to go on his heritage, he told. We requested the burial household directors to consult their accounting records up provided these estimates. Affirmative, they are personal. All formal storm deaths in Puerto Rico must be certificated by a solitary office space at the Office of Judicial Sciences in San Juan, the Equity. Burial household directors are not learned pathologists, and do not hold autopsies and some tests. They do, yet, say in household members and overview die certificates and bodies. Filming burial homes potential underestimates the quantity of storm deaths, told Eric Klinenberg, CEO of New York College's Institution for Social Expertise, who wrote a volume How Dealt in Problems in Die Tolls Next a 1995 Warmth Wavelength in Chicago. Same cases wherever you include the flesh and the flesh gets undertaken to the burial household nearly ever underestimate the actual mortality rate, he told. Down there's ever a considerable quantity of bodies how dong ti get machined via burial homes. Which how tells me, is how, down there are a lot more than cases to be informed, and how quantity is perhaps departure to peak once again. The Puerto Rican by the government stands by its calculate as exact, relying on the actual data it has acquired today. Accountable of burial homes and families are just idle talk, told Veronica Menendez, Vice CEO of the Office of Judicial Sciences, that examines deaths to define if they are storm-related. Down there's no cause for us to be concealment numbers, she told. We job in which we've acquired and we've analyzed it. And my staff job difficult to do the. It torment us to listen human beings believe we might be game about in the numbers. Though the cats prayed for Pilar, problems in the Storm Maria coincide start as quickly as deaths happen. Hospitals and doctors frequently are the at first link of defense. These care professionals mark die certificates or, in lot cases, solve if the die is shipped to the Office of Judicial Sciences in San Juan for inquiry. A die must be discussed by how office space to be calculated. Of the 1,968 full deaths informed to us by burial homes, 499 of that they declared were storm-related, 601 deaths, they told, were shipped to the forensic lab for analyze. The Puerto Rican by the government acquired a full of 843 deaths for analyze in the at first monthly following the tempest, onto Menendez, of the forensic office. Of such, 377 were optically discussed but not autopsied, she told, since the deaths leading of nature causes. 5 cases are anticipated definitive overview, Menendez told. In Corozal, an interior design municipal government north of Vidal's building flame, Pilar Guzman Rios' physician proclaimed her die nature, and thus not object to judicial overview, out of vision her flesh. He did so, he said us in an interviewing, since it was almost unfeasible to achieve her building by way at the period. And he requested her mourning household to be capable to go on. If her flesh had been shipped to the forensic office space, Dr. Francisco Barrio told, later it could include been exposed to overview for days or weeks. If her die was nature, the household could bury it her currently. He signed her die certification on September 29. Reason of die, cardiac detention. The true is more sad and more than facility. Guzman was a true strength in her mountain society. Her rapidly developing vote supported via the mountain range. She'd shout, "Hola, chica," at full strangers and run to welcome them. Her kisses smacked so difficult, on to loved ones, they leftward ears tinkling. She stored 3 parrots on her behind veranda, Paulina, Cuqui and Blanqui, and she learned them to chant La Cucaracha and song the Rose Garden, manufacturing them fair as noisy and pious as she was. She scientific to driving deceased in lifetime, but one day she had a motorist's license, neighbors begun inviting her the city cab and the city emergency since she gave so lot complimentary open. The night of her die, Guzman's sibling-in-law, Madeline Barrios, walked in Pila's household to discover her 3 parrots fully quiet for the at first period she can remember. She knew later which she would discover following, Pila's dead flesh vacationer on a bed under an picture of Jesus. Her household saw it upcoming since of the facility of the tempest. The lively, joyous female incurred of a quantity of public health issues, and she necessary an electrical-powered car to assist her breath via the overnight as so as cooling to reliably keep the insulin she took to supervise diabetic. Out of each, told Yaitza Neves, a nursing who as well is Pila's grandniece, and some household members, her lips begun lathe dark blue. She became poor and giddy, incapable to conduct table silver. She couldn't nourish or wash herself. She begun muttering disjointedly. Though the cats prayed for Pilar, his cousin told. Household members told they named 911 often and were said an emergency would come to get the female who usually would include managed a man in the position to the clinic. Same die of my sibling is associated to the storm spoilia since we had no force or fleeing water supply, told Paula Guzman Rios, Pila's sibling, who is yet residing in a orphanage out of water supply or force since her rooftop was break off and she lives on a slope sensitive to landslides. Or, in addition how, telephone call for an emergency were done, and the emergency never arriving. We've run out of burst into tears her household didn't aware it, but if Pilar Guzman's die had been calculated as portion of the formal Storm Maria coincide, they might include been acceptable for Fed assistance. A program run by the U.S. Fed Disaster Control Agent, or FEMA, helps families pay for burial cost if they can show their family member dead in the tempest. The maximal is $6,000, but the deaths must be certificated as storm-related in procedure to classify, on to a FEMA representative. The is fair one way the precision of the die duty has material ensuing consequences. If the planet has the experience how the die duty in Puerto Rico is low, as Trump card allocated in his October 3 click meeting, later grant and social aid are less than potential to stream in the direction Puerto Rico, told Klinenberg, the social scientist at New York College. A cause it matters is since down there's a issue of how bad the position is, and how lot asset are required to assist, he told by telephone. Is it yet an disaster, or is the disaster above? While the social hears how comparatively few human beings dead later they get the communication, all soften and the regional by the government can knob the. If human beings are moribund each 1 week, how sends a really various communication, he told. The Isle had a poor force mesh and bad roads up the storm strike, and facility are increasing. Almost 2 months following the storm's landslide, yet, advance remnants spotted. Few loved ones of Pilar Guzman, for sample, are yet residing in an basic high school. They gather rainwater of the rooftop and force a little cell in a car motor. It rest a solitary lighting and extortion a few cell phones, that can't get a alarm largest of the period. The mayoress of their city, Sergio L. Torres, says deaths will go on if facility don't enhance. He disputes the Puerto Rican by the government's complaint no one dead there. I aware for a reality down there are deaths how leading of the tempest, he told. Experts speak us knowledge how, wherever and why human beings dead could assist defend the social in next disasters. Meantime, families of the corpse say their favorite ones are creature neglected. While we met loved ones of Quinton Vidal, for sample, the man who died in the building flame, his granddaughter, Lysandra Lara Vidal, thanked us for upcoming to say on a die she thinks the U.S. and Puerto Rican governments wish neglected. Thou our departure to be our eyes and ears to the planet, she told. We've run out of burst into tears. The Puerto Rican Forensic Office says his instance is anticipated toxicology overview to assist define if his die was inflicted by the storm. Potential problematical, anecdotally, 2 threads ran via the unaccounted deaths informed to us by burial homes. Human beings appear to include dead mainly in the ramifications of the storm, quite rather than the tempest himself, and lot of the victims appear to be older human beings. We were incapable to paper any as called straight storm deaths, such as such incurred of rough injury or trauma, how occurred the day of the tempest and were skipped by the government. Human beings who may include incurred deaths implicitly associated to the tempest, such who dead waiting care treat, who devoted suicidal in the ramifications of Maria, or who lost due to absence of force and pure water supply, were facilitating to identification. Several of the undercounting appears to outcome of mess on which should categorize as a storm die. The Puerto Rican by the government says consequential deaths to calculate. On its formal listing, down there are 3 suicides and a few cardiac attacks, for sample. 1 formal storm die occurred following a man bring down off the rooftop time seemingly hard to maintenance a tempest-damaged household. Not all knows that types of deaths should be calculated, yet. Jose S. Rosado, execution CEO of the care center, told in October how no deaths of how clinic had been shipped to San Juan for judicial analyze. Just rough injury, drownings, waterfall, criminality stage victims and bodies how are found corpse on arrive, amongst other, should be shipped to the equity for analyze, he told. How appears to dispute in the Puerto Rican by the government's determination, that includes consequential storm deaths such as cardiac attacks. They were all nature causes of die, Rosado told. The Puerto Rican by the government allocated centers for illness monitoring and preventive guidance to hospitals on while deaths should be shipped to the forensic laboratory. The TME Care Center maintains it has accompanied such guidance indecisive that deaths to email. Down there are few legislative requirements, yet, on that deaths must be shipped for analyze. Types of deaths how must go to San Juan for overview involve criminality victims, poisonings, suicides, random deaths, cremations, nurse household deaths and families deaths, amongst other, onto a 2017 law how set new guidance for forensic. Several state include care examiners or coroners located local to provide deaths are calculated and identified sequentially, told Dr. Gregory J. Davis, a prof and CEO of the College of Kentucky's Judicial Disease Advice Facility. In Puerto Rico, just one office space classifies these deaths, often outgoing doctors and hospitals to solve that bodies are analyzed. How is potential problematical, Davis told, since several hospitals might include and stimulus not to paper deaths how occurred for force blackouts or some hazardous situations. On the some brush, he told by electronic mail, no accountability could outdoor them up to legislative obligation. Same calamity is on our fail to instrument policy as well could influence the trial. Puerto Rico's Institution of Judicial Sciences was shaped in 1985 in answer to concerns of policy corrupt practices in the inquiry trial, on to the lyrics of the 1985 Act. The institution was initially designed to be an freelance study flesh, for the influence of policy. but a 2017 law modified the behalf of the office space to the Office of Judicial Sciences and put it by the monitoring of the again created Social Security Division. The Registrar of Social Security is mentioned by Puerto Rico's selected governor. Down there is no cause any for us not to involve an exact calculate. As dangerous facility go on weeks following the tempest, yet, told Klinenberg, the NYU prof, more than of the accuse will drop on the by the government and its answer. How's not nature to include human beings moribund out of power weeks following the storm, he told. How's not on the weather? How's a history of policy malpractice? Of year, he's associated to Maria if you can't get to the clinic since the roads are closed downward or you include a aquatic disease since the water supply is filthy. Down there are all various of psychological disease problems how go up since of things love the. These are all immediately or implicitly associated to the calamity. At the spot, the calamity is on our fail to act as lot as whatever else. Same water supply is upcoming. The forensic office space maintains lot bodies were never shipped to them for overview. One was Quinton Vidal, the flame sacrifice who dead October 20th. The some was Juan B. Robles Diaz, who hanging oneself on September 27. The forensic office space maintains the suicidal was unrelated to the storm. Robles had been undiagnosed in leather carcinoma months up. Carlos Robles, his child, yet, said us his 70-year-old dad had been in comparatively nice alcohol next a circle of carcinoma treat in the joint state. How modified following the storm, he told. For few nights following Storm Maria dilapidated his Canobanas household there in the Vale under the Mount Rain Forest in East Puerto Rico, a location wherever horses wander the gateway and several homes yet don't include roofs. The senior Robles woke up in the overnight furious and shouting. Same water supply is upcoming. He's flood, he yelled, on to his child. On September 20, the tempest driven on 8 feet of water supply in the household's Rose-specific building, that Juan Robles had lived in for many decades, on to Carlos Robles. Water supply rushed via doors and windows and spewed out of the bathroom. Panicky, the household crushed a box in a dormitory in the behind of the building to flee. 13 of them waded via a race of belly-deep water supply and cut via a fencing to search high land. I mind we were departure to sink, told Carlos Robles, 47. Juan Robles kept how date, but the man who utilized to sit on his stoop tantalizing the runners who gone by, and who never shied off of a struggle, never was the identical. Following Storm Maria, he awoke in overnight terrors, afraid else storm loomed, Carlos Robles told. He ran downward the road screaming at the top of his lungs. The building was all but unlivable, but Juan Robles insisted on stay down there to defend it. For the date, he installed a sofa by the box so how he could look for the time the water supply would back, his son told. 7 days following the tempest, Juan Robles hanging oneself in the dormitory wardrobe. His 18-year-old grandchild found him down there, Carlos Robles told. Workers at the burial household how identified Juan Robles's die to us as potential storm-related discover it astonishing how Puerto Rico would not involve his die in its coincide. How is it probable how the man is not on how listing, told Miriam Valesti Neves, who plant at the Frankie Monument burial household in Rio Grande. I don't aware how to explanation he. Carlos Robles believes his dad's die was a impact of Storm Maria, too much. A judicial inspector said us interviews characteristically recent nearer to 1 time and 45 protocol. Part our interviews are very extraordinary, the inspector told. The forensic office space told down there is no authorized period box for a judicial interviewing. The office space did not answer to reiterate customer request for postmortem accountable and associated document. Pesquera did say his office space is outdoor to addition to the formal die calculate, yet. In the next, Pesquera told, die certificates in Puerto Rico should be enhanced so how down there is a precise location for doctors to mark if or not a die may include been associated to a tempest or some nature calamity. More than human beings are departure to dead. Our recent halt in Puerto Rico was to encounter in Quinton Vidal's household in Calle. Down there, on November 15, a half a dozen household members sat in folding chairs in his granddaughter's residing chamber, that is one of the few homes in the region in force facility. Two social officials in the municipal government say Vidal's die is a mark of Fed and Puerto Rican by the government incapacity. If force facility had been recovered more than rapidly, they told, he wouldn't include dead in the October 20 flame. He's far too lightweight to sack the deaths of older human beings, arrogant they would die quickly in any case, told Jesus Story in a, Calle's CEO of Disaster Control. Making so ignores the urgent of the human meltdown. More than human beings are departure to die if we go on to be off the mesh, he told. The Puerto Rican and Fed governments are creation the erroneous experience how the disaster is above, told Calle Mayoress Rolando Ortiz. They fair wish to include a nice history, he told, to do things see favorable for them. The fact, he told, is deaths go on, and they're substantially unrecognized or they're sluggish to be informed by Puerto Rico. On a spreadsheet in the household were few edged photographic of Vidal. In a, undertaken in May the year, same's shown in his feature white's bonnet, dark blue jacket and khakis, ever smart, helped to cover the pavement in front line of the household wherever the household had collected to recall him. The Wrangler hat was on the spreadsheet, too much. As in picture of how 1962 Lori, the neighbor who named fire service to the stage of the building flame how annihilated Vidal led the team in the declamation of the Rose Garden, a Roman Catholic heritage intended, in the instance, to assist a man undergo of their earth lifetime in the world and calmness of sky. The Hello Mary pray is reiterated 50 times, on into some prayers reiterated 5 times every. Santa Spoilia, Madre de Dios. Up the prayers, the household had speak to us on Vidal's die. They were frightened such a delicate and hard-working man dead in such a forcible and morbid path. And they terror how force blackouts go on to put their neighbors at hazard. Ruga por nosotros pecadores. Ahora y en la hora de nuestra muerte. Prayer for us sinners. Now and at the time of our die. Abruptly, for the recitations, dark bring down above the chamber. The force had lost of, demonstration 3 diminutive candles on the spreadsheet following to Vidal's sign bonnet. Flames imbued the chamber in mottled lighting.